Hi, this is George and Lauda Leon of Quantum Key Productions. We wanted to do this video to expand a little bit more on the Chaos Magic theme, but also introduce a few more themes which tie in with the bigger picture of the scenarios that are currently in play. We want to discuss a bit more about the advent of soul transference technologies connected to the Advanced Secret projects, and the cloning centers which operate in relation to those. And yeah, we haven't really prepared a lot. We just want to speak from the heart and from our experiences and see where it takes us. So we wanted to elaborate a little bit more on the entities which will be coming through, which will form part of the Great Deception, which has long been prophesized about, and the involvement of CERN in relation to opening up those portals. What in fact we're going to be dealing with are entities which are not only going to be coming to the surface, but which are going to be coming through in via portals. And it's going to be a time of great chaos and confusion when these events arise. There is going to be a build up to that. It isn't something that is just necessarily going to come out of nowhere. People will at that point in time realize that there is a lot of instability in the world and a lot of societal change. And those whom have already felt nudged to prepare will have already at that time made their moves and been positioned where they need to be.
So as these events that are created and engineered to cause more famine, to cause more climate changes that affect the way that things are being grown, they're going to come in and say that they've just discovered that there's a shortage of gas or oil, and they're going to start crimping things bit by bit and squeezing the population in such a way that there will be a climate of desperation and unpredictability as each of these things occur, so that essentially they will engineer everything and push everyone to the point where when the larger catastrophes occur, then they will be able to easily set something like this up using also Project Bluebeam.
Yes, and this is where we need to stress that the reason it is a great deception is because they're going to be incorporating not only mimicking technologies, using artificial intelligence technologies and systems, but they are also, it's going to be in conjunction with what really is going to be coming through, and this is where it is going to be a complete assault on the senses.
But prior to that happening, as they squeeze people and squeeze resources and squeeze everybody essentially into the same area of existence, which is survival.
All the base primal senses.
Right. At that point, there will be a relocation from community living, because nobody's going to, a lot of people are going to have difficulty sustaining their own livelihoods with all of these quote mock shortages. The point of how they're doing it, the point of how they're engineering it, is not that you're going to have one huge catastrophe now, because it isn't set up well enough to have everybody duped. People aren't desperate enough. People have independent resources. They want to be able to get everybody in a checkmate situation where they are literally
where they can lead you through every single one of their doors.
Right, and you will buy it because you're desperate. So they will do it in such a way that they'll pinch you and squeeze you until you feel you have no option but the government military options, quote, whatever that is. So part of the plan that they're going to do, besides the Project Bluebeam, and they're going to use that worldwide, but part of what they're going to do is they're going to actually create so much unpredictability with the economy, with oil, with food.
You should research patents on weather engineering and all the facets which have long been established in that regard for decades now. So yeah, this isn't science fiction talk.
No.
They've been able to do this for many years now, and if anything, they've only just refined their technology and honed it to be more effectively utilized. And that's also in terms of the weather warfare as well.
So what they'll do, they'll get to the point where communities and independent living as we know it today really isn't going to be viable for a lot of people. So the government is already and has already built these, quote, government facilities. Not like FEMA, okay? They're FEMA's too obvious. So this is just, a different version of community, but these are all government settlement bases where they will basically give people the option to go there so that they can be more supported while we're going through all these.
Yep. And that's also a great part of the welfare state conditioning, where they have had large segments of the population. It's like a game of chess, because they have set up the institutions and the structure where the poor are getting poorer and the rich are getting richer in many ways, and the divide is just becoming greater and greater. So there's going to be a lot more people right now are in a state where they are more dependent on welfare and handouts, where they never would have needed to be in that predicament. And it is all part of getting people corralled into the dependency program of, the big parents, big brother
Help.
and everything that's going to be happening on the macro stage in due course is happening now on the micro. So for example, where you have the political structure where they're having people completely programmed into the okay, well, this is the good guy, this is the bad guy. For example, how we're looking at North Korea now with and the Russians as the bad guys and the Americans are the good guys. This is exactly how they've been wiring people for decades into that mode of thinking, and that is exactly, as we've been shown it, that is part of the structure that they're going to incorporate with the entities which are going to be coming through. And they're also going to be setting up a good cop, bad cop scenario where these alien forces are concerned. So this is the thing, if you don't...
Which will come after the catastrophe.
Yes, exactly, when people are in a state of need and more desperation.
And they're already going to be in a state of being controlled. So after that point, there will be a huge catastrophe that they engineer. And they'll give cause. Several, but prior to that, there are going to be catastrophes that happen naturally as well, though. And that's on a different front as well. Yep. But that is
we'll get onto that as well. We'll get onto that.
That is going to cause people, prior to the good aliens coming to be the savior, there will be...
You mean quote good aliens?
Good aliens, yeah. To be the saviors and the helpers of mankind. Yeah. There will be...
the ones that the Vatican are saying are our space brothers, and they can be...
Well, the Vatican is hiding, and they've been hiding, and they've been privy to... they're the ones that are responsible for hiding a lot of information from the beginning. However, the fallen angels, the Book of Enoch talks about the fallen angels that have been kept in a place where it's a remote location that most of the world doesn't have access to, which would be Antarctica, that they have been kept there alive. So this plays into all of this as well, because this is something that Enoch was shown and wrote about it, that in the end times, the fallen were going to be released.
The reptilians who currently have been housed in deep underground bases for a long time and have been furnished there they're going to be surfacing anyway. So whether
Yes, but I wanted to talk about that, how that was going to happen prior to the quote good aliens, because there's going to be
Yes.
a war, and it's going to be all engineered, the war, to make it look like, you know, we're being attacked. So they're going to be also coming in and being very visual in the war against us. So this is going to be part of the setup. Is
Yep.
like the reptilians are going to be in our faces fighting us. And this is going to create the perfect scenario for, quote, the good aliens to
Yep.
come in and say, we've come to help you against the ultimate, you know, enemy.
Yep. So eventually, you will be witnessing, well, those who are here still on this earth at that point in time, you will be witnessing the Star Wars. We've both had our own experiences where we've been taken to see that in the real, and that's one aspect. However, before that, and even before the reptilians make themselves known, people are going to be conditioned by seeing great displays of what's going to look like dancing light in the skies. And I've seen footage of this years ago on YouTube. I couldn't find it. It's like, I think it had been taken down. But I remember when I first saw it, I was like, oh my, this is exactly what I was shown years ago. And I was just, I was in amongst crowds, and everyone around me is in awe, and it's nighttime, and there's just these great displays, and I'm talking hundreds of lights in the sky, and no one will be able to deny, you know, that it's happening. And this will form part of the condition exercise for those, you know, whom are going to come out in the disclosure. But this is why we talk about the authors of confusion, because everything they give you, even in disclosure, you are still going to have to apply your own discernment, because there is confusion attached to it all. Okay? They have never ever just, when it comes to governments, you know, the governors of the mind, they have never just given it all out and just bleh.
In fact, when they give it out, when they give a portion of truth, it always is attached with something that
With the
is
distortion.
meant to distort and invert, so that it means it's potentially misleading,
like
depending on
doublespeak.
your own personal discernment. This is how it works. This is how the game here works.
Yep.
So it's almost like you know, you're playing you're playing find the truth amidst the lies, while the greatest tool that they use is the truth to hide the lies. So this is how it works.
Yep.
As all of this is happening, we have to remember, or you know, remember that the technologies, the quantum devices that are being utilized, such as CERN, have already completed much of what they have been designed to do. So the veil has already been perforated, thinned, which is merging all of these realities and these underworlds. Therefore, we will be witnessing a lot of sites that have to do with these other worlds and the entities thereof. Eventually, this will increase to the point where, you know, by the time there is the whole war happening, it's all going to be revealed. It's all going to be there. A lot of people are going to have a hard time because physics no longer is valid. It's no longer valid really anymore, because we're having so many glitches. We've also been inserted in a new parallel reality and a different universe, which is a much far darker version of the original.
Antiverse, I guess.
It is really the antiverse. So a lot of people are experiencing a completely different visceral experience here. They're experiencing different types of dreams. I know I am. And dreams are not dreams. They are actually reality. This is more the dream that we have here to mask the reality. Everything's changed. The Mandela effect is just you know, it's crazy for me because it's everywhere. It's going to be more and more, obvious and heightened for people. The nature of the dream copias that people are experiencing are actually very disturbing. There's also a lot of people that are reporting that they can no longer really remember their past, or at least it's not rememberable as it was in the past in the other universe. This is true. I'm experiencing that because it's almost like it never happened.
It's been split.
The way that my mind and memory retain, quote, the physical experiences of that other reality is very different from here. It's almost like it's not even remembering a dream anymore because it's like it's gone. So there's a lot of things happening here that are adding to the complexity of the unraveling of everything and the dissolution of illusions. So are more and more people going to be experiencing seeing paranormal activity, experiencing supernatural events? Are more and more people going to be witnessing time melting experiences at the same time, realities blending and in a type of fusion where you're seeing one thing inside another? Yes, these things are going to happen more and more. The deja vu, I feel, has changed as well, and I think that has to do with us being injected into a new parallel universe and antiverse, and the nature of everything here. I don't know if anyone's noticed, but everybody's maximizing their downloads at a critical momentum. So intelligence, downloads, the ability to increase knowledge is at a quantum level of increase. So that means that the equation keeps increasing at a crazy level. And this is happening worldwide. And this is the reason why we're finding now, more than ever, and this started in 2009 actually, this was the critical juncture point.
Well, can you explain that to me? Explain to everyone else how you explained it to me. Like, what exactly happened in 2009?
To my knowledge, and I can only say, I can only speak about this with regards to my knowledge and what I've been shown and seen. In 2009, there was something incredibly critical that occurred, and for lack of a better way of putting it, I felt like the world, the entire planet, consciousness was hit literally by an impact. And at that precise moment, everything was sealed in. So the state of people's consciousness where they were at that juncture would play out to everything that's happening now. So in essence, where you were locked in at that point will play a critical role. Yeah. 2009, it was when the impact happened, okay? And at that point, whatever you were in consciousness is what plays out, okay? You had up till then, okay? And then from 2009 to 2012, I feel, from 2009 to 2012, that was the window of opportunity for your
personal, to kind of make that leap?
Yes, yeah. It was a potential, a leap in potential, okay? And what you are and what really you are in consciousness and spirit.
Yeah. So you say a lot of people would have been especially nudged at that point in their awakenings. And,
absolutely.
And they would have realized even a sense of urgency
absolutely.
To break down their old patterns. And
as though it was almost a warning because something big was happening and this was your window. So 2009, I remember that 2008 was the energy was increasing to get us to what happened in 2009, which was massive. And I know that the physicists knew this. I know that the physicists and the scientists were able to actually read what was happening in their the way that they calculate energy and whatnot. The Schumann resonance, everything was affected hugely. Upon impact, it was a momentary, it was massive. And I felt and I saw the nature of reality, like a thing went right through everything, like a big quantum ripple. It was massive. And I remember moving, like my spirit and my body moved at such a, like, it was so intense that the body went later, kind of like, it was like, it was just crazy. And I knew that was the beginning of this. Okay, so by 2012, there was
so you're saying, it's like a new platform,
right? Something, what was building and mounting what was coming in 2012 happened then. So, and this is what's strange, because the Mayans were right, essentially, in terms of the 2012 mark, because in 2012, and I have no proof of this, but I do believe that something of a completely different nature did happen that nobody remembers, and that but people are responding and reacting in trauma to it. Without knowing why. Okay. So it's like it's somewhere locked inside, but you've been literally like restarted, and everything here got restarted.
Yeah. And not necessarily in a positive way.
No, and I recall in 2012, and I'm not sure if you recall this, but there was a lot of information coming in about these asteroids that were supposed to have come very close to hitting us.
Yeah.
And there was the amount of publicity going on about that, and they did come exceptionally close to Earth. I'm not sure if anybody noticed this, but I did.
Plot thickens.
Yeah. Suddenly, everything's normal. Nobody hears about anything or what happened with that one. There was really no media. It was like literally a reset happened, but it wasn't a reset like anything else. It was like something shut down completely and then just restarted again. Quantum machine restart, right? The server restarted. And everything was just normal, tickety-boo, only everything was sort of different with everybody, even physically. So...
But given by what you had told me, this reset, which is artificial and done via quantum computers by the architects, this is a temporary state of holding, and part of the Mandela effect and everything that's happening is part of the glitching, and that's how you explained it to me.
Yeah.
And so we are going to be witnessing more glitches in the quantum as it starts to dissolve.
Yeah, and actually it can't really maintain itself with the current level of quantum computing.
Well, the thing is, I mean, most people in their heart of hearts know that we are on the cusp of something. If people are truly honest with themselves, they can feel inherently that something isn't right and that something is on the verge. It really is like the pot boiling, and it's boiling hotter, and there's a lot of people who are conscious of these things, who feel very unsettled because especially the people who are deeper empaths, and they know, and there is anxiety over it, and that's the thing, we have to overcome those feelings, because this essentially is not bad news. Okay, it is a matter of perspective. Okay, when I think of all the suffering and all the corruption and all the torment of beings in this world, when I conceive the dissolution of all these paradigms of suffering, I really don't feel that that's something I have to mourn, because anyone who has a great heart feels the injustice that is occurring every second of every day in this realm, and
Well, look at what we do with animals.
a lot of us,
Humans, yes.
but
we do
all
this to
around,
each other, but
every
everywhere.
being
Yeah.
is in a state of trauma on
Yeah.
some level.
Yeah.
And this is the thing that many people who are highly empathic and compassionate, we're tired.
Yeah.
We're tired of all of this, and a lot of us have even incarnated with the sense of, well, you're not feeling joy being here. You know, and that doesn't mean you can't have good times, things like that. But we're talking about like that true inner joy. I could say I haven't, because I knew where I incarnated. I knew what this place was since a very, very, very young child, and to me, this is I personally, well, we feel like we've been waiting for this juncture for all our lives. Going back to the Great Deception, we brought up in our last video that these entities which are going to be crossing through, and the events coinciding with the Project Bluebeam type devices being utilized and deployed, we are talking about a system of mimicking God, or everything that you have been conditioned to believe is of God, which includes the workings of the earth, in terms of what people might consider to be natural disasters. They can mimic that. So what people will say, oh, you know, that tsunami, oh, what a terrible natural disaster. No, I've been taken to see the DARPA I've been taken to witness a lot of these technologies. I've seen the laser weapons deployed, which can trigger tsunamis. I've been able to witness that. I've witnessed a whole range of these advanced technologies in my involvement with some of these advanced secret projects, as has my wife. Okay, so we have that. It's harder for them to pull wool over our eyes, because we've observed within the mechanisms of their operations. So we can report, you know, often what they try and pass off as natural, which is anything but, you know, and including people who hear voices in their head, which again, that can be done technologically, because we've experienced that. So, you know, they call it the voice of God. That has already been revealed, you know, using V2K, voice to skull technology. All these platforms which they are basically setting up the grid in readiness to deploy. And a great part of that infrastructure and apparatus is already set up. So it's just a matter of, you know, them choosing to deploy that at the appropriate time. And they know the markers, because they have seen through these cycles previously. A lot of Project Bluebeam is part of the Antichrist setup. Antichrist meaning in place of Christ, not the opposite of Christ. So this is where, again, it becomes the setup of the devil hiding in the truth and making themselves and passing themselves off as benevolent and saviors and doing charitable, benevolent acts, which is a lot of what happens, again, on the micro level at the moment with a lot of these people connected to fraternities such as Freemasonry, okay, where it's, you know, on the outside it's all charitable and well-meaning, but as you get deeper and deeper and deeper into the levels, you realize what they are serving. And that might be a statement which is going to upset many, but again, we mentioned in the last video that we are coming across every fallacy. And we won't be silenced on that, because this is what we came here to do, and this is what we incarnated for.
And these technologies have been in operation for thousands of years. So
Nothing new under the sun.
It may be a different era. When you think about the cycles of civilization, there's always a reset that they do so that they return everybody to the Dark Ages as a form of mind swiping as well, so that they force you to start on a rudimentary level and work your way up in terms of survival itself. But meanwhile, they've had all this technology from the get-go. I mean, you think of the Vimanas. Yeah, I mean, this is actually written down. So one of
Well, yeah, in bringing that up, that's because all these cycles have occurred before.
Right.
However, this time it is different, and if you want to know more about that, then yeah, your very first video series goes into that. So for reference, guys, if you're interested.
And they had cloning back then as well. So they're masters of cloning, masters of creating duplicates.
So we mentioned that we were going to go into the cloning aspects of how the powers and principalities of this world utilize such to their ends. Let's just say this, and let's really get down to the fundamentals. There are some incarnates here who, when they enter the powers and principalities of this world, know exactly who they are because they come in like a beacon. So what happens is that when you incarnate, and I'm talking at embryo stage, they have access to you. So they can begin their interference, their programming, all their abilities that they can utilize technologically in an attempt to harness certain incarnates who they know are part of the elect.
And they track them throughout every single solitary incoming. So
Incarnation. Yep.
yeah, all of them. It's yeah.
Yep. Now, there's two ways where you can be utilized. One is forcefully, by the example that I just mentioned, where you get drafted into certain levels of operations because they do have access to the technology of the body, which is part of their realm of influence. And they do have a rule here. They do have some levels of rulership here, usually through legalism and some aspects of the law. And basically they exploit that to the full. The other levels where you can be utilized by them is through entering into an agreement of entrapment, where you basically surrender through agreements to their mechanisms, such as through military agencies, and you do that willfully. In our case, that was not the case. In our case, we were intercepted from entry, and we did experience extreme levels of trauma and interference, where we have been utilized and drafted into many aspects of the military apparatus on several levels. Through our experience and our recall, we can say it's every department that has employed aspects of our meta abilities, because that's what it's all about. They see the people with the high levels of meta physical ability as tools that they can use.
And there are differences. I mean, they know what the differences are, and they will tailor how they use you according to those differences.
Yep.
So
according to your stuff,
yeah.
you know, quantumly speaking, to what you harbor in your essence.
Yeah.
So for some people, they could be useful for time travel operations. For others, it's
more of a, I mean, it could be a one-on-one in terms of just intel or, spying. The list goes on. It's unlimited, because the technologies that they're using and interfacing us with, I mean, they interface us with this technology on the daily, with what they're doing with chemtrails and plasma, etc. So the technology that they use with us it's also employing the technology that they have in us. So it's on multiple levels of use,
Yeah.
simultaneously even. So you could be doing, many things at one time in many places. So because time doesn't exist, so it's easy
Exactly.
for them to do that.
Yeah.
So
And I was going to say something, lost it. So, as I mentioned previous, there are those incarnates whom the powers and principalities knew came here for a very specific purpose and a mission, you could say. However, the adversaries have their own mission, and their mission is to completely derail that person's purpose of entry. And this is where you find a lot of...
bomb in there.
No, you're right, mate.
Okay.
So this is where you have that level of interception, and often the ones who have come in with great potential are the ones who experience the most horrendous levels of abuse and setups, and incarnate into particular bloodlines which enable the instilling of the particular programs, which usually create to amount to levels of rejection, lack of self-worth, abandonment, everything which completely is an inversion of what you came from. And I just want to bring up
and then they splice other things in you as well. So they can splice animal,
yes,
other consciousness.
yes.
They can splice.
Well, that's part
other
of the
DNA.
the ritual layering
So-
in. So yes, they can alter your genetics.
Mm-hmm.
They can layer in entities
And
as
even
well into your field. And part of the integration work is about undoing that and cutting off all those things that have been layered in through occult ritual, and obviously negative occult rituals, which have been performed on such people from very, very, very early stages. And I'm talking, for some, the torment and the trauma is in the womb. That's where it begins. So
SRAs, and then we can talk about the sodomized strongman holds as well. The characteristics also with regards to people having animalistic traits, traits of birds, traits of cats, traits of wolves. The hybrid project where you're a shapeshifter. It's and also where you have been spliced into somebody else's consciousness and memories, so they can do that as well. So you're retaining others' data, memory line, memory stream.
well, the thing is, I mean, what is part of your DNA? I mean, the way that the law works here is that you incorporate the DNA of your parents and then the parents and so forth. So you do inherit aspects of and the qualities of the bloodline which you have entered into. So a lot of the undoing is also undoing the inherited bondages.
Whether they be through family or through, other people's invasiveness through technology, which the Sumerians wrote about this, where they were pros at doing this. They were pros at transferring consciousness, actually. The Book of the Dead, all of this. The Himalayan Tibetans. So if you're going to undo all of these agreements or all of these attachments, if you're going to undo it, it has to be on all levels, which means that it really is far out when you think about it, but it has to include all these other things that are way beyond even your incarnation in reincarnations, way beyond your lineage, because this technology. It's been operational from the beginning.
Yeah, and you've gone into those aspects where the body is a technology,
Yeah.
and the mind can be used as a technology and be
Yeah.
programmed like a computer.
Yeah.
However, it is your spirit, and the soul can be programmed too. However, it's your spirit which is meant to override all of these things. And this is when we say things like overcoming the world. You overcome the world through your spirit, because your spirit is the part of you that recognizes and sees through all the bullshit. Okay?
Your spirit
traps.
is
That's the inner spark of what most would call God.
yeah.
You know,
That's your ultimate
us being the spark
creator.
of the all spark. You know, in having that little piece of God in us. Okay, and this is why, you know, many people might think that we're against Christ in some of the things we're speaking of. We're not. Absolutely not. We completely acknowledge the scriptures which speak of the Christ in us. Okay, because the Christ mean being anointed. Okay, being anointed in spirit.
The holy oil of your existence, which is your spirit.
Yeah.
Okay, so
And it's not about claiming to be,
No.
you know, we're an almighty God. But it's about stepping into our potential.
so the spirit and the soul are two completely different things, and the soul is also their technology. The spirit is completely
That's the alien part of you,
the
you know, because no one's really a terrestrial here. Okay, where your spirit came from is extraterrestrial.
So the work is to have the spirit and the body marry, essentially,
in a harmony. Yeah.
so that the merging of the physical body with the spirit is the great becoming of all that you are on all those levels, because this spirit is unlimited. It is the all. It is everything. The kingdom of heaven and all the heavens and all the verses is within you. So it is the merging of that in the physicality, which means that you would be the greatest potential being of all that you are in the becoming. And this is what this is all about.
And that's not denying Christ.
No, because Christ,
That's actually speaking in accordance with what he said, which is follow me.
yeah. And
Now, why would he say follow me and follow my example and do as I do? You know, knowing that we're going to stumble, of course. Okay. But why would he say that if we're meant to just, just turn up to church, you know, sin every day, you know, with the conscience that you have in you, and just choose to sin, even though you know right and wrong inherently, just like a child does. Continue to rebel, and then think in your mind, well, hang on a minute, my religion tells me that all I have to do is just have faith in Christ as a savior, and I can do all these things, and then just sit back and say, hey, that's okay, I'm fine, because he's just, all I have to say is, save me, I believe in you. If only it was that simple. If only.
I don't advocate that you use anybody as a scapegoat so that you no longer have to be responsible or accountable for everything in your life. That's what the enemy does. This is what all the demiurge and the archons and the reptilians, they all, and every entity out there that wants a piece of us, this is what they want us to believe. They would love it if we could just put everything on something else, on someone else, in a fantastical way, so that
they can carry the load.
You are essentially giving up all of your power. When you give up your power to anything or anyone, I don't care what it looks like, then something is going to take your power and use it. And this is exactly what Isa, the Christ emissary, he didn't come here to do that. It was to teach us to merge with our spirit for this great becoming, and that the kingdom's in us, not outside of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if I recall properly, there's even a scripture where which outlines that he did not come to do away with the law. Which does imply that there is an accountability for actions. And the devil, knowing how the true law, I'm not talking about necessarily religious law, how the true law works in the universe, and those who violate it willfully, then he knows how to snare.
The spirits in operation that are here, because they're not embodied, that's the reason why they're attaching themselves to people. All of these spirits, they have many different personalities, I guess you could say. When you see...
Are you saying the reptilians underground don't have bodies? Or?
Well, I'm saying just entities. I'm not talking about reptilians per se, because I've seen reptilians and they do have bodies, and some don't. Some have bodies, but it's in the other density. So the experience of this whole entire place that we live in, that is allowing us to evolve, that is, in essence, the church. It does not require that you give your allegiance to it or worship it.
Well, put it this way, me just as a human being, the thought of someone or something worshipping me is abhorrent to me. It's abhorrent to my spirit. So I can't imagine a being which is more higher evolved than me actually demanding worship and expecting to deliver, burnt flesh. And you must prepare it this way to make me happy. Okay, you've got your gods mixed up. Okay, and this is where you have to be very, very, very careful in disseminating the black and white squares in all religious texts. We're not just picking on the Bible here or anything like that. We are speaking about all religious texts which contain light truths to attract souls, because a soul with their spirit on board detects truth. Hence why these books draw people in so powerfully, because they do contain very powerful truths. However, the distortions which are weaved in are so utterly dangerous, and this is where you get very dangerous acts of judgment and zealotry, and people who become extremists, and then, as we've seen examples in the world, people who would literally stone somebody for breaking the law.
Or just create a war, just fight a war. Somebody who would, think that
A
their
holy
God,
war, right?
their God is, they're fighting on behalf of their God.
And this is what we call the soldiers, the soul dyers, because to be a soldier is to be a soul dyer, okay? Which means you are, you're bringing your soul to death. Okay, and once again, that's just one example of spelling, which is in operation, and it's actually put in front of you so you can see it. And there are many, many more examples we could list. That's just a very obvious one. And this is how this whole world functions, this whole matrix platform, this whole black and white architecture. They have to put it in front of you. And this is why, even so, as we've discussed before, much of the media is actually portraying a lot of what is going to manifest. And they also show the technologies which they are in possession of via these movies, all under the guise of science fiction.
They tell you it all.
But they have to reveal it. That's part of the
CERN
sorcery.
Has put out the videos with not very many views, where they were discussing full on what they were doing.
Okay, I haven't seen those.
What? It's the video that you linked me.
It's got 100,000 views. I'm not sure if you
at the
consider
beginning
that not very much, but
no, not considering
well, no,
in the planet. 100,000 is really nothing. So although there are a lot of very serious things that we are all having to live with and deal with and explore and emancipate ourselves from, we have to keep in mind that it is vital that we laugh, it is vital that we enjoy life, that we that we live in a way that is in the buoyancy of the memory of that which we came from, and bring that here to everything around us. Because if things are too heavy, and if we carry that heavy energy, then we create that. We create resistance in our own life, which will only be used against us. And we create breaches so that all of these other things can come in and do things to us. So one of the most vital things is to raise our frequency enough with happiness, joy, love, anything that makes you laugh, to just raise above what the prison condition is, or the, whatever is oppressing you, or whatever you're dealing with. If it's chronic pain, if it's life circumstances, the way that you shift energy and transmute it is to rise above it. To rise above it means that you can't continue being heavy in that knowledge and not shift yourself. To shift yourself is to shift the way that your mind works. It's shifting literally everything, the chemical synapses in your brain of how you perceive everything and how you react to it. That's the key.
Yeah. Mind over matter.
So
yeah, and yeah, I mean, we did touch a bit on that in regards to when we mentioned not making the negative things that have occurred in your life your personal tragic storyline, and then just holding to that, and living in a sense of woe, because we are meant to rise above all that has served and worked to oppress us.
And often what is a really amazing thing to experience is to do something for somebody else, so that you do not stay stuck in whatever your obsessive negative impulses are that you've been conditioned for. So if that means volunteering at an animal shelter, volunteering at a hospital for children that have cancer, volunteering with agriculture, so that you can just help mother and be amongst the, it doesn't matter what that is, just do something for something else. Give your heart to something else in love, because that alone is going to raise your frequency, and it's going to help you be buoyant. And that is one of the keys. It's huge. I mean, you are not going to transmute anything if you stay stuck in the negative perseverating of your situation, because negativity breeds negativity. It can't blossom into anything. There's no energetic momentum created so that you can move beyond it, because it doesn't ever rise above anything. It just stays heavy, and it becomes heavier. And when that happens, you are an open door for everything else on that level.
Yeah.
So at that level of frequency, you're attracting everything that exists on that frequency. And this is a world connected to underworlds, lower astral worlds. So they want those frequencies to be at that base level.
And that's the thing, because every thought, guys, is a broadcast. Every single thought is the thought itself, as an electromagnetic being, is a frequency. So if your head is full, and this is part of what the entities love, is when, and sometimes they even are part of the negative speak in your mind, and they try to just make that your running mode, where you're walking around, oh, no one likes me, I have no value, no one, I'm not worthy of love, or I'm ugly, whatever. All these examples of terrible things that people say to themselves every day, and they're broadcasting that, and because you're broadcasting that, other people are picking that up, and people who wants to be in that field when they're feeling it, because we're all like little mini antennas that way. And can you blame someone for not wanting to enter that field?
A lot of these forces have made a science out of attacking us using also the technology of our bodies with regards to the chakra system and how they attack you. Each chakra system is related to certain emotions. It's related to how we perceive certain experiences in life and how we connect to spirit and source. So they have made a science out of attacking those completely, absolutely. Therefore, you will find that a lot of your the negative stream thinking will be related to either the heart chakra or the mind chakra or the lower sexual chakras. They will target you where your weakest point is, and it's a scientifically, technologically, incredibly precise science that they use against us. So rising above it, there really is something to laughter being one of the best medicines out there, because laughter in and of itself, it transplants you above whatever it is you're going through. A lightness of being, that these words all mean that you are rising above the density. We create realities with our minds. This is a mind made manifest reality that we have created. This means that literally we create what we think. This is our power.
In many ways, yes.
This is our power. And I have to say absolutely in the entire system of reality. So this is huge. This is a huge power. If you don't know how to use it, this is massive.
Well, there's a reason why mind control is the biggest aim of these entities, these powers, these principalities, because it is the greatest tool you have, is your mind. It's the most powerful tool you have to utilize. And if they can corral that to their negative ends, and unfortunately, when you look at the state of the world today, unfortunately, many have been corralled in one way or another, but we are called to completely transcend and rise above that.
And yes, it's not fair the way that they've done it, because they've actually they haven't followed the law.
No.
They've created counterfeit realities on counterfeit realities, and they've gone around the law, through the law. They've broken every possible
Well, there is to break.
law there is to break. And
Under the guise of legalism.
yeah, which is also
And setting up their own
that's
terms
a,
that are
and
outside.
that's right, and that's based on spelling you into that reality. So this, we're not saying what has happened is fair. We're not saying that what you have to rise above is easy, or
Absolutely not.
it's the opposite. It's actually, it feels impossible. Often it feels impossible.
Especially when you have legitimately undergone
Yeah.
severe trauma.
Yeah.
And we're not going to sit here and pretend that any of this is easy. It's not. But it's not meant to be easy. And that's the thing. The path of overcoming is essentially, in an essence, in a way of saying moving mountains.
Well, greater than these things will ye do. And I love that saying, because it's true, and this is what we're supposed to be fulfilling within ourselves, is to be able to literally move mountains, literally move ourselves out of the game, out of the setup, out of the storyline that isn't true and never was.
Well, it's interesting you bringing that up, because when I'd hit the pause button, I asked Lauda to move a mountain, and she actually did it. Okay, I didn't capture it on film. I'm sorry, guys, but I swear the mountain did move. All right, a couple of millimeters. All right, I'll get it next time. All right.
Well,
Yeah.
love everything you can. Adopt an abandoned animal if you can.
to have the room to love it and give it the care it needs. And,
Do things that are life and creation.
Well, like they say, giving is receiving.
And love yourself. And be joyful. Don't be afraid to love. Don't be afraid to love. Don't be afraid to laugh. This is how you transmute energy. Trust me, I've transmuted a living hell within a hell within a hell within a hell. I mean, for all intents and purposes, I should never have been able to get out of.
No. I mean, you've told me a big part of your story, and I can say in most cases, if people had experienced the level of, attack and targeting as Lauder did, most cases like that do usually result in self-destructive habits and
death.
Yeah. And giving yourself over to the forces that want you to spiral completely out of control, want you to be angry and rage-filled, and to feel that you can't trust anyone, and
that you're powerless.
And put the walls up, and that's exactly what they want. But part of rising up is, as the scriptures say, to be a lamp in a dark world, and to shine your light, because we all have it. We all have that ability, and it's sad because most do get caught up in their storyline,
and that's what will
tragedy.
do you in. That's what will do you in. That's the name of the game for them. If they get you caught up in your storyline, then you'll never ever move beyond it. And it's just an illusion. I'm telling you, it is not real when it comes to your spirit being, or what you really are, or who you really are. It is something that you needed to go through to evolve. And go and move past. And
that's the thing. It's like when a person gets to the point where they start justifying, and the temptation is great to begin justifying all the anger and all the reasons for why you feel all these negative aspects, which limit your light in the world. That's when you become neutralized. That's when they snuff your lamp out, and then you're in danger of snuffing
those around you. And so the way that they designed the type of attacks that they do against us in trauma, in setups, in lineage and reincarnation, and utilizing all of their technology against us, is that the hope is to fracture the mind. Because the mind is where this is where all the magic is. This is where your magic technology is. It's the mind. Their hope is to fracture the mind. This is why there has been such a huge obsession with the mind and the blood, spirit. If they can't fracture your mind, typically they will try and attack your body, and this is how it goes. So they will try and cripple your body, drive your body in so much pain and agony that you live a life of torment, where there is no escape from a type of pain that would drive you to want to die, and yet you have to keep going. This is another way that they try to fracture your mind. So where they don't have access to your mind, they attack the body.
Yep.
If you
That's a way of trying to reroute.
Right. So it's important to keep that in mind, because these are tactics that they use. A lot of what they induce physically to a person is synthetic and artificial. It's not natural. It's not our natural state of being. In fact, we can overcome these things, because
by will.
Our spirit is the ultimate technology.
Well,
and there is no technology that could even light a candle against it.
Yeah. Well, you've overcome many odds in your life, so you are a living example. I mean, you were wheelchair bound. You've
metastasized cancer. I've had
You were given a death sentence
broken
by doctors.
back. Absolutely.
A lot of
Yeah.
examples you've had, near-death experiences.
No, not near death. Death. I died.
There you go.
I died more than once. Yeah. All of this. Yes. Been in severe chronic debilitating pain since I was 14. Like the list goes on, and I'm saying, when I say this, I'm not saying this because I read it in a book or because, I took a few lessons. I'm saying this because I did this to myself. I transmuted my life myself, comprehending my power, and I've only just begun.
So there's nothing that we would say here that isn't what we know, that who you are is not capable of fulfilling also.
I am me. Me is you. So if I can do it, you can do it. This is part of the reason why this is the whole point of this.
Yeah.
There is nothing that cannot be overcome, even though the design is to bring you to the point of utter surrender
And
of your sovereignty.
And it is
And your
important
will.
to mention that usually the ones who have been most oppressed and targeted in their lives are usually the ones that had the most potential and light to offer the world. So if you are one of these people who knows that you have been on the receiving end of such, then look at that from the positive perspective, that you must have something which is so infinitely great to offer.
That they would go that out of their way.
Exactly. To that degree.
Yeah.
So it's up to you to step it up. I mean, maybe in a future video I'll give some personal accounts as well of what has happened to me.
And
a lot. It really is up to us at the end of the day where our position is. We're not meant to fear death either, because that itself is also.
It's an illusion.
So yeah, we're not meant to fear the death of the flesh and the passing away of the flesh. We are here to tend to our soul condition, which is designed and meant the mind, applying our mind to integration of the spirit, which is the potential which Isa, Jesus Christ.
I could stay like this, forever following you. Just don't get too far, and I'll be right where you are. You're a dream that I could finally see. I just want us to always be, to always be. Let's stay here, let's stay here in love. Let's stay here, let's stay here in love. you.